my name is Suzanne Baker. I'm the Alumni Engagement Coordinator for Capital Idea, and I thank you both for participating on this session. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you. My name is Evelyn. I know I've been trying to study for the NCLEX, so I appreciate the help.
Thank you. Gabrielle?
My name is Gabrielle Michelle Shepard. I go by Michelle. I recently took my NCLEX, and I'm just going to be sharing some tips and tricks, and I guess some resources that I've used to help me study and prepare myself for the NCLEX. So one thing that I used something called nursing.com, and that was while I was still in school. And I think that one was like $40 a month. And then they also have like other packages, which I know it can get expensive, but that nursing.com, it's very, very cool because it's like courses. Like, I don't know if you remember taking like microbiology. I'm not microbiology, but like, the introduction to biology or something like that at the very, very beginning of Capital Idea. Did you take that class?
I already had all my pre-courses.
Well, they had like modules that were really simple and easy to follow. And so that nursing.com, it has modules like that where it has like the anatomy, physiology, and then it breaks it down really well. I would recommend it. And I think they do like a 7-day trial. So I did use that nursing.com while I was still in school. And then they have something else called Picmonic, and the Picmonic is $11.99, I think. And I just used it because that one has like pictures to help you remember and things like that. So those are just some resources that I would recommend. Another thing that I got is this thing. It's called the Complete Nursing School Bundle. And so I saw it like on TikTok, and well, that's really cool, but it breaks it down. And so it has like all the different things here, and it has cute little pictures and things like that. So I did use also to help me study, but I didn't use this a lot, but I had this resource available where I was able to study it. And so it breaks it down, like it says, trying to find the beginning of it. So see, it has like dosage and calculation, which there are no dosages on the NCLEX.
Yeah, I'd never.
And then it has like examples here.
Okay.
This one is by Nurse in the Making, and I think she's on Etsy too. And then it breaks mental health disorders. And then, but this is really good because it talks about like the highest priority thing. So then it talks about like the drugs for mental disorders and mood swings and things like that. But it's really simple where you can see it's simplified, and then it continues and it goes into like even then it goes to mother baby, and then
it covers through the whole
different things, like the high points that we learned in the semester. And I really like this because this was very consistent with what ACC was teaching us and what was on the ACC exams. So I didn't like look at all of the information on here, but it was really helpful. So
you said Nurse in the Making?
Yeah, Nurse in the Making. And then it also has the adult care. So like here it has the fluid resuscitation and burns and things like that. The med surge, respiratory disorders. So this one was really, really comprehensive. And I really like that one. So it was very easy to understand. And then also for me, when I was in the last semester or the third semester, I was like barely skating by. And then in the third semester, I discovered that if I was to actually draw and take notes and draw that way, I was able to remember better. And so I don't want you to like be intimidated because, it doesn't really matter how good of a drawer a person is or not, but the actual act of doing that, it would help me to understand the material. So like, here's, how I would take notes like that. And I would just copy see there, and it's only for your eyes, so it doesn't really matter. But I would try to do that to help me understand the material and content. And I didn't really learn this until the third semester. And so in the fourth semester, I tried my best to make sure that I was drawing whatever it was that I was learning to try and help me understand the material. And before I went over like a system, I would kind of go over the anatomy and physiology first to make sure that I understood how it worked, so that way I could try to make sense of what it is that I was reading. That was what I was trying to do there. Trying to see. So I would say notes are really important, like writing it down, because it helps you. That was my learning style. It helped me to understand what it was that I was going through in the moment. So there's like some more ideas, you know. So I would do that. And then I also realized that if I teach it to someone else, like my husband, then I'm also able to understand. So then I got a whiteboard here. And then I would use the whiteboard, and I got a bunch of markers. I got like all these expo markers, and I would the whiteboard, and I would act like I was a professor, and I'd be like, okay, today, and even if nobody was there, I would do it by myself. I'd be like, good morning, class. Today we're gonna go over mechanical ventilation. And then I'd write mechanical ventilation at the top, and I'd be like, what is mechanical ventilation? And then I would write down the definition of what mechanical ventilation was. And that helped me a lot to begin to understand the material. And I'd also use the whiteboard to do like NCLEX style questions. Like, okay, we're gonna go over some questions here. And then I'd write down a question, and then I'd like talk through the answer. I'd talk through the answer and see how I got to that answer. So one thing I like to do when I do the NCLEX style questions is I'll see what it's asking me. And then based on what it's asking me, then I'll ask myself like, okay, what is acute pancreatitis? And I might not know what acute pancreatitis is, but I'm like, what do I know about that? And then I'll write down, well, I know that some labs that are associated with the pancreas are I think can be like the liver ones, like ALT or AST. And so I'll write down the things that I know about what it's asking me based on whatever the question is. Or so if it says a patient presents with heart failure, then in my head, I'll start to think to myself, like, what do I know about heart failure? Okay, I know about heart failure. I know that, the cardiac output is not working correctly. And I'll kind of ask myself that thing. And then based on whatever the answers or the answers that are me, I'll read the answers, and I'll try to use do that critical thinking and see, okay, it says that my patient has some type of neurological disorder. And then I'll be like, okay, is that associated or is that known to fit in with heart failure, But this goes back to really understanding the patho behind failure and understanding how the heart works and things like that. So it's really difficult, but honestly, learning that body system and knowing more about it is really important. And when it comes to answering those questions, because you have to understand, what are they looking for? What are they talking about? And then another thing that I used, which I was kind of skeptical about it, because I know when I read books, I read it and then I'm like, what did I just read?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't understand what I read. But I went to Half Price Books and I got this Saunders NCLEX preparation. And I just really made it priority to read at least like one I don't know what it's called, like part of a unit. I didn't make these marks in it. They were already there because it was used. But so like I was like, well, let me go over like fluid and electrolyte balance. So then I would say that's gonna be paid from 78 to 79. And then I'd go and I'd read from 78 to 79. And then I had a notebook next to me. And so inside of here, they'll have like a triangle like that. And the triangle is like critical points. And so if I thought that it was a critical point, I would write it down in the journal next to me. That's how I would do it. So I would read whatever it was that I was reading, and I would, read out loud, because I don't understand it if I read it. And so then I'd read out loud, and I would read like intentionally. So I would be like psychosocial development. So I'm making sure that I'm paying attention. The Erickson theory of psychosocial development describes the human life cycle as a series of 8, and then if I didn't really understand it, I'd stop and I'd use the book, the notebook that I was taking notes in, to like write down that, or I'm like, oh, that's really important to remember. And then also like translating it into like your own language. Like, what does that mean to Evelyn? Like, okay, heart failure. What is heart to me? And so write down, what is heart failure? And then kind of creating a definition that you understand about the pathophysiology. Or like hepatitis. What is hepatitis? Well, hepatitis is this. What does hepatitis look like? Hepatitis looks like this. And what symptoms and signs is my patient going to have? And then focusing on what can I do as a nurse related to that symptom. So that's another thing that I use. And honestly, once I did, I didn't, like I said, I didn't do the whole book. I didn't do the whole book. I'm sorry, you had a question?
No, my neighbor was leaving. I just said bye.
I just went over like some body systems that I felt like I needed more practice in, like the endocrine system and things like that. And I did also go over the cardiac system in here. So and I would read the chapter, and I didn't read the chapter all in one day. I think I would read the chapter in like a week, like 1 week I would chapter. And then I would say, this week I'm going to focus on the gastrointestinal. And then I would read the gastrointestinal in here in the book. And I would use the journal that I had next to me to write down important things that I thought were important, and also like priority care that I would provide as a nurse, and really trying to understand those concepts in my brain and how it affects my patient. And then once I did that, then I would go onto the UWorld, or I'd go onto YouTube, and I would Google search like NCLEX endocrine questions. And then I would do NCLEX endocrine questions based on that. And I really did see a difference, because before taking the NCLEX, I didn't feel like I was prepared. And then I did notice that when I was reading this and doing the UWorld together, and writing down those
The important notes.
important notes, and then I would go and I would do the questions, I would be like, oh, I really am understanding it, even though I was very skeptical about how much it was going to help me, because I'm just reading out of a book, but it was helpful. And then there's this one too, but I didn't use this one too much. I didn't use it too much, but someone gave me this one, and so I use this one a little bit too. But I would really recommend definitely the Saunders one.
Okay. What edition did you get?
This one is the 7th, but I know they have. I went to Half Price Books, and this was $20 at Half Price Books. And even if you don't, on the nursing.com, if you don't get it because it's $40 a month or whatever, you can still just go to YouTube and type in anatomy physiology of the kidneys, and then write down what, like draw a kidney, and then ask questions like on the paper, like, what is a kidney? What does the kidney do? And so I would really try to understand, because that's what's going to help you answer the questions, is actually understanding the body. And it does seem like I can't remember it all, it's really difficult, but focusing on one body system at a time. And I would recommend drawing it out, like even if it looks like silly or something like that. Different markers, and getting a big notebook, or just, even poster boards. I've used poster boards in the past and things like that to make notes. and drawing out a kidney or drawing out a heart as best as you can. Or if you're not comfortable drawing, like even printing out like a heart and understanding like the flow of the blood flow in the heart and the chambers of the heart, and that anatomy and physiology is really important. And then when it comes to drugs, I didn't really know any drugs. I knew any, but what I did to try and learn some drugs is I just went to the U World, and then the U World you can select like what kind of questions you want, and so I went in there and I selected like just plain old pharmacology questions, and then I would do 20 at a time, and I would do the pharmacology, and then I would write down on the notebook what the drug's name was, like the 2 different names. I'd write down what the drug's name was, whatever it does, and then what I needed to know as a nurse, like what based on what you will tells me, because then like at the very bottom it has like explanation, and that's what I would do. And then I would just do 20 drugs at a time, and I only got through I think like 40 drugs or something like that, but I just did enough to kind of familiarize myself with it.
Okay. So doing the drugs that way with the U World was best for you in regards to like learning the side effects and everything.
Yes, because I think that if I tried to like memorize everything when it comes to the drugs, I wouldn't be able to. But like, for example, I would just write down the key things, like for example, I think it's the prills, and the key thing is that it has angioedema for the lips, and then it also raises the patient's potassium. So then I would just write that down. I can't remember the name right now, but I would write down that medication, and then I would write down what does it do, and then I'd put lower the heart rate. It's a blood pressure medication, and then I'd put need to know. I would put I'm going to be looking for angioedema, which is the swelling around the lips, and then I'm definitely going to not give this patient any bananas, and I'm going to want to monitor their potassium, because obviously there's a side effect. The hyperkalemia is a side effect, so then I would just write down those 2 things. That was it. And of course, when it comes to blood pressure medication, I would think, they're going to get dizzy. It's going to lower their blood pressure, which is going to cause them to be hypotensive. So I'm going to, of course, watch out for that. So, and then I would be like, oh, I got that confused, with a different drug. But just writing down, I don't even know where my journal is. I left it over there so I could just show it to you. I just write the drug's name, what it does, and then like the important things, because the U World is going to hit the high points of what you need to know about the drugs, as
Right.
opposed to us, where we feel like everything's important, right?
Yeah.
It like highlights, like when it comes to this drug, this is what you need to know about it. And so I would just focus on that and try not to focus on everything else. I would just focus on what U World is telling me. I would say that honestly, I didn't see a change in my grades until I started drawing and making concept maps.
Okay.
Did you do concept maps?
Yeah, they are hard.
They are hard. They're really hard.
But that makes sense. I mean, I feel like that does help when you're drawing it, because you are understanding where everything is and how it's being processed. So I can see that.
The concept maps, I never did them because I didn't understand them and nobody taught me how to do them. That's why I didn't do them. And it wasn't until I started making the concept maps where it was easier for me to understand. So I would basically put, like, at the top, I would put whatever it was that like this. So whatever it was, like here at the top, it says chronic kidney disease. And then I'd put, what is it? And then I'd write down what is chronic kidney disease, and then I'd put what causes chronic kidney disease, you know? And some of this other stuff is like, you don't really need to know like all this other information. But I was doing this based on the PowerPoints that I had. that helps me saying, what is it? And writing down the definition of what it is. But before I did that first, I would be like, okay, well, what is a kidney? What does the kidney do? So like, here's one that I did. And I drew the heart out here. And I did it in pencil in case I messed up. And then I wrote down like blood flow here so that I could try and understand. And then I did different colors. And once you practice, you'll get better. And don't be like, nobody's gonna see it. That's what I would tell myself. It's nobody's gonna see it, Michelle. Like, it's not a big deal. It's just for your eyes only. So that's what I would start with first. I'd be like, well, first of all, what is the heart do? And then it would have like the different chambers of the heart, the blood flow in the heart. So I have to understand how it works first. And then once I understand how it works, and it wouldn't be like one time that I would do it. I would have to continuously go and then remind myself like, okay, what is the heart? What is, and you had to really continue putting that information in order to get familiar with it. So it's not like I just studied it one time. It was like continue, like keep going back, like, okay, what is the heart? And then, oh yeah, that's right. And continue to put that information in, so that way I know what I'm doing. See, here's a different one that I drew, see, of the heart here. So just trying, and then I drew another one on the same page, on the next page over. So, but really understanding the pathophysiology and the way that it works first. And that nursing.com, it does help a lot too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I guess I have to become a better drawer so I can.
You don't have to, it doesn't have to be perfect or anything like that, but just, I would say just like I think the movement of drawing and things like that, it helps like connect it in the brain and things like that. Or even if you don't draw it, just like writing it out, like what is it, what does it do, and things like that.
Yeah, the writing, that's the one thing I was going to try to do this time, because I was going to go over my notes, and then I was going to start like writing it, because I feel like I do remember more if I write it down after I've done reading it, like you said.
I will say one thing that I've learned, and this is unrelated to the school. This is like in my own personal life, but I did learn in my own personal life that I, struggle with perfectionism. And one of the gifts of perfectionism is all or nothing. So I either do it the right way or I don't do none of it at all, And so sometimes I would create expectations for myself that were way too high that I wasn't able to accomplish. And so sometimes when it comes to the material that we study, it's so much material, we want to learn it all, but it's not possible for us to learn all of the material. So we have to find a way to narrow it down so that we're not, or maybe not narrow it down. We have to find a way to look at it in the bigger picture, so that way we're looking at like the broad picture and seeing the big picture idea, as opposed to like focusing on the tiny little details of it. So that's one thing that I would recommend. And so then when it just comes to the NCLEX questions, just breaking those questions down and trying to look at it as a bigger picture, like what is it asking me, and seeing what it says there. Like I when I did that, I got one question, it was asking me about bacterial meningitis. And I was like, I don't know. So I did the best that I could. And then another thing they say is that if one part of the answer is wrong, then it's all wrong. So don't even select it, which is hard to do, because you're like, well, that's right. So then you select it. But if part of it's wrong, then it's all wrong. So I answered it and I got it wrong. And then I got another question, and I guess they were trying to figure out if I knew what bacterial meningitis was. So then it was like, the patient has bacterial meningitis. How are they going to present at the hospital? And then it was asking me, and it was like a select all that apply. And 3 of them were, I think one of them said increased intracranial pressure. And then another one said like something with like cardiac output. And then another one said throwing up or something, and then convulsions. And then another thing said something cardiac too. And I was like, okay, bacterial meningitis, I'm going to be thinking neuro, right? And so so then I'm like automatically just throwing out those other two because they are cardiac related, which doesn't mean that if somebody's struggling with neuro, they're not going to have cardiac, but kind of thinking of it as a bigger picture, you know, because of course it's confusing. You're like, well, their brain is going to be, and then their heart, and then, you know, so really
So
hard.
just focus on what the main thing is with the issue. In this case will be neuro, mainly brain, and disregarding the other ones that don't pertain to the actual disease. Okay.
It would still go back to like understanding the patho, you know, like, well, what is it? It's, you know, what is the problem there, and how does that affect my patient? What does my patient look like? And level 4, the teacher, that's how she said it. And it was like, when she said that to me, I was like, why didn't I learn that in level 1? And she said, what is it? How is my patient going to present? And what can I do to help the patient? That was it. And I was like, that is so simple. Like, why didn't they teach me that in level 1? You know, like, what's the patient going to look like, and what can I do to help the patient?